I'm ready.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Jeff Starr, and this is my channel Not Bad Films. I make videos about music. Today, this video is about the Indian slide guitar, and I will be talking to Joel Veena, who's an Indian slide guitarist currently living in southern Vermont. Joel began studying slide guitar in India around 2007 and has dedicated his life to mastering the instrument. In the second half of this video, Joel will tell his inspiring story from his humble beginnings to performing for large audiences in India. I originally thought our interview might last for 30 minutes, but we spoke for nearly 2 hours. I've edited our chat down and started with the details about the instrument itself, its history, and the techniques used to play it. All right, let's learn all about Indian slide guitar. For people who might not know what an Indian slide guitar is, what is an Indian slide guitar?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I can tell you about that. This is I'll take it in front in a
Yeah,
moment, but this is the instrument sitting right behind me. And an Indian slide guitar, it came about from the Hawaiian guitar, sometimes called the steel guitar or Hawaiian steel guitar.
yeah.
And this is an acoustic guitar that's played flat on the lap, and the nut is raised up so that the strings are actually above the fretboard, and you don't fret it with your hands, you use a steel bar to slide on it.
Sort of like similar to like a square-necked lap steel or something.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly the same principle. Um, and so the story goes that a musician by the name of Tao Moy was in Kolkata. He received a residency to perform Hawaiian music, him and his
Okay.
family band, in Kolkata in the 1930s and 40s. And that sparked a lot of interest in the instrument in India, and people started to adapt it to
Hmm.
play, first, to play Rabindra Sangeet, Bengali music,
Okay.
folk music, Bollywood tunes, and then eventually modified further to play North Indian classical music. The way I'm thinking about it is that Indian slide guitar is a big category of instruments, inside of which you will find things like Mohan Veena, Chaturangi,
Hmm.
Shankar guitar, Hansavina. There are a million names, but this is
Sure.
the big category, Indian slide guitar. These instruments, as in this one that I'm holding here, is each one is made custom by hand to order by Concord in Kolkata. And the company was formerly headed up by the guy, maybe you probably can't see, his name is here, Babasindhu Biswas, sadly recently passed away. But the company is being continued by his daughter, Ria Biswas, and they still make fantastic instruments. I had a student just order one and had one shipped right here to Vermont, and
Yeah.
beautiful instruments. The body,
Mm-hmm. Oh, look at that. It's beautiful.
has lots of beautiful inlay, and this is actually one hollow chamber. So this is a big difference in between this instrument and a regular guitar, is that from here
Mm-hmm.
all the way to here is a hollow continuous chamber.
Wow. Wow.
They're made from, the bottom is one piece of wood, a thick piece of wood that gets carved out, kind of looks like a boat.
Love it. Love it.
And then this is Indian mahogany, the body,
Okay.
and then a pine type of ply is laid on top
Hmm.
for the face and the fretboard.
How many main playing strings? Is it similar to a
So,
sitar, or how is it
what
strung? Yeah.
it is similar to a sitar. I think it's a little bit simpler actually. So I've got four main playing strings. traditionally, or I don't know, conventionally, saw pa, 1-5-1-5.
Okay.
Then I have 4 drone strings.
And are those sort of like your Chikari strings?
Yeah, I would call one of these my Chikari, so that
Okay.
there's the octave. And the saw again, a drone.
Yep.
And then I use pa and ni in most ragas, so it's like sa sa pa ni. I think I should put on my picks so that you
Yeah, sure. Well, let's talk about picks. Yeah. While you go and get those on, so and please obviously correct me if I get anything wrong here. For anyone who doesn't know sa and pa, in Western music, sa is like your tonic. That's the root that you're in, and pa is like the fifth of that.
Exactly.
And it's interesting because it's an open tuning, but you have in the drone you have a seventh.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'm glad you say open tuning because I get a lot of contact from guitarists, and everybody wants to know, what is the tuning?
Yeah, are you in
I'm using?
Open G or something?
Yeah, because that is a thing in guitar.
Yeah.
Right? Is that you can use a different tuning in guitar.
Yeah.
And it can open all these doors without you actually changing anything that you do. Just by changing the tuning of the guitar, you can start to play totally different stuff.
Yeah.
That's like open tuning, the beauty and magic of open tuning.
Yes.
And this is not that. This is a different Indian slide guitar is a different thing. It's not an issue of tuning. Of course, you need to be in tune, but as I showed you, we're just doing 1-5-1-5.
Correct. There's no tritone to make a chord or anything.
No, there's no chordal aspect. And as you know yourself from playing Indian music, we are largely dealing with monophonic lines, melodic lines. Is that I'm usually playing on one string at a time.
Yeah, and that I will say, like, I want to talk about that in a moment too. But I'll say, like, when I first was starting, like, because I'd been interested in wanting to learn sitar for a long time, but it was always this instrument that had a million strings, and it was like, well, that'll never happen. That's going to be super complicated. And then, YouTube sort of started to exist, and I saw like a couple super, not really even that great videos that were like, this is what a sitar is. And I was like, wait, she's playing on just one string the whole time?
That's right.
And I was like, well, I can do that, I think. You
definitely can.
Yes. So in your tuning, your saw, what are you tuned to? Are you in C or is that a D?
I typically use D.
Okay.
So I am currently doing a whole bunch of recording projects, and so I am all over the place. Right now, I am, I think it's 43 cents flat of E.
Okay. Now,
beautiful tuning, though. It sounds really.
Yeah, it sounds great.
The guitar is really.
Is there sort of standard? Because like on sitar, it's generally most sitars are sa. If you're going to make a Western equivalent, it's generally either C sharp, or D, and it sort of depends on your gharana and sort of the build of your instrument, how it's set up to resonate. With Indian slide guitar and the various different styles or the different, say, lineages and gharanas, you were saying that you're in sort of playing in a bunch of different keys now for your recording, but generally you said you were in D. Is that because of where the lineage or the gharana that you've come from and sort of learning this instrument, or where does that sort of note, where do you land there?
I do D, and I've used a lot of different saw over the years.
Yeah,
I'll tell you. Between C and E, I've done pretty much everything, and D is what I typically tune to this particular instrument, this very one that I'm holding here,
Yeah.
um, in that D area and slightly sharp and slightly flat of D
Hmm.
is really, it seems like to me that's what the instrument is designed for. You
Yeah,
get
yeah.
this really snappy response. It holds its tuning really well.
Yeah.
Um, it also, D is a wonderful key to play with other musicians.
Yeah.
Also because it's like it's a consonant key. It's easy for me to if I have to play with Western music, I
Mm.
can imagine and transpose without too much
Hassle,
mental
yeah.
gymnastics. And
Yeah, yeah.
you know what we didn't mention
Yes.
actually, Jeff, is that the rest of the strings, because people are wondering, like,
Oh,
okay,
yes.
there's four main strings and four drone strings, but where's all the
Yeah, what's all those little ones on the
resonation?
neck?
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
got four main ones, four drone,
Yeah.
and I got 12 sympathetic underneath the
Mm-hmm.
main one. So for your viewers at home, you can see, if you look at the bridge, you can see a white bone bridge underneath the primary bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And that has the strings for all these tuners along the top here.
And there's 12.
There are 12. We call them tarup or taruf, or
Yeah,
just
Tarof, yeah. And
sympathetic strings.
is that bridge oh, play it again.
Go
Let's hear
ahead.
it again. Now, the bridge underneath, is that been it sounds like it's been sort of Jawari to sort of give you a little
Yes,
buzz, right?
absolutely. This
And
one.
yes, that one there.
And that's the one, yeah, we have to be really careful with it, not to polish it,
Yeah.
or I don't touch it actually.
Yeah, you just
And so
just
when I change the strings, I just put it on the table and then I pick
yes.
it back up when
Yeah,
it's done.
nothing, God forbid one of the bridges shifts. Yeah.
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 Oh, this instrument, that is one really challenging part in as a traveling
I would
person with this
imagine. Yeah.
instrument is that it's a lot of wood. This main bridge is also wood, so it's
Hmm.
wood sitting on a very thin ply top, and the ply top will change its shape,
Oh, sure.
especially after a flight, and it will develop a gap
Wow.
here, and then we are there. I over the years I've kind of figured out there's a place for the bridge in Vermont,
Uh-huh.
there's a place in California, and there's a place in Mumbai. There's a place in Kolkata. It's all
But the bridge on your main playing strings, from just looking at it earlier, looks more like a just traditional straight line. It doesn't. It's not sort of a bowed
that's
Jawari
correct.
bridge. Um, is that something that's pretty standard, you'd say, on Indian slide guitars?
Yeah, maybe I can give you a close-up shot of of the bridge.
Yeah.
This is very typical bridge of the Indian slide guitar is that
Yeah.
the strings are passing over a piece of fret wire
Oh, okay.
that has been cut to that length
Mm-hmm.
and poked down inside a channel in the wooden bridge.
Wow.
And they wear out over time
Sure,
because
sure.
the steel is harder than the fret wire, and they can also develop burrs and stuff like that. So that's
Sure.
something that we do is that we have to maintain that little stretch of fret wire.
Wow.
Sometimes is polishing it, not polishing it, like sanding it down.
Yeah, sort of
So that
like recrown the fret or whatever.
exactly, yeah,
Oh.
yeah. It's like you're doing fret job. It's the one fret on the instrument basically that you have to take care of.
Yeah.
Um,
That's so
and
crazy.
Yeah, it's really unusual, and it was something on my previous guitar, which was not designed by Baba Sindhu. This was in
Yeah.
Kolkata. It was designed by I believe it's Ashok Musicals in Delhi. It was a guitar body that was then a custom neck was built for it
Oh,
and
interesting.
bolted on it, and they went that route with it. And that one I was convinced that the fact that it had a piece of fret wire as its bridge was like the cause of all my problems of strings breaking and
Uh-huh.
intonation and all this. And I hired people to make me wooden bridges,
Really?
metal bridges. I tried everything, and there's really a reason why they have it going over the fret wire. I can't necessarily tell you why it is, but it is a really important part of the sound of the whole
Really?
instrument. It contributes to the volume
Hmm.
and maybe a little bit of buzz or
Okay.
our liveness. That
Yeah,
was
yeah,
one
yeah.
thing that I noticed when I used a pure wood bridge
Mm-hmm.
without a piece of fret wire. I never broke a string, which was wonderful,
Mm-hmm.
but the instrument was about 30% of the volume.
Wow, interesting.
It's a
Interesting.
lot quieter, yeah.
I have to say that as a sitarist, I am super jealous that you have regular tuning keys like a guitar has.
Yes, you
Um,
are. Though
yes,
I
and
will say they're not the greatest
you know,
in terms of guitar. I mean, much better than your tension pegs,
yes,
but that is one thing. This instrument would be extremely expensive if these were all like Grover
like top of
nice
the line.
tuning
Yeah,
machines, as these are
yeah.
not top of the line tuning
Hmm.
machines. They often break. We
Wow.
replace them. The teeth
Yeah,
give
yeah,
way and stuff, especially with rust and moisture.
yeah.
But no, you are absolutely right. The
Now you
tension
have.
pegs, I don't envy you.
Oh, it's rough. Now you have at the head of the headstock, I should say.
Yes.
Do you have another resonator there?
Yeah, we call this a tumba,
Mm-hmm.
like on sitar, and
Yep.
mine is actually made out of wood that's been turned on the lathe.
Oh, that's nice.
On sitar, it's typically a gourd,
Yeah, super fragile
right?
gourd. Yeah.
Super fragile gourd that gets broken. On the guitar, it adds some bass,
Mm-hmm.
definitely, but I would almost say that its primary uh, purpose is that it balances the instrument in your lap.
Got it.
Since there's a lot of action on this side
Mm-hmm.
picking, and
Yeah.
what happens to me at least without the tumba kind of anchoring it is that the this end of it starts to slide
Wants
around.
to flop up or anything or two or
That said, there are plenty of players much better than me who don't use a tumba at all. They have no
sure.
issue with my friend Manish Pingle, wonderful Indian slide guitarist. He plays without the tumba. It
Yeah.
doesn't slide around on him. So
This is great. Now let's talk about you have three finger picks. Is that correct?
yes,
Okay.
I'm using Dunlop
Okay.
18s and the
Oh,
metal Dunlop finger pick.
very similar to banjo.
Extremely.
Yeah.
Though actually I don't know anything about banjo, so
Yeah.
you can tell
Well,
me.
by looking at it, I would say it's exactly like a banjo.
Okay, good. Um, like your sitar, we also use bowl pattern dot
Hmm.
raw, and so for us, just like sitar, this pulling one is our da,
Okay.
because always pulling is going to be always stronger than the pushing.
Down. Yeah.
This is extremely, when I teach, I have some students who are lap steel or dobro players.
Hmm.
This is a
Hmm.
really tough thing to wrap your head around if you're already a guitarist, is that you're leading like this.
That's so. See,
And
that's
your
it. This is a.
secondary
Yeah.
stroke is like this. Because we're doing finger style, right? So
Yeah.
you would be leading with your thumb, picking out your bass lines and
Yeah.
stuff. But this is a different instrument. So we've got da, and this is ra.
Hmm.
And nobody is really, we don't have an official name for the middle finger yet,
Okay.
but extremely useful and dynamic in terms of technique, where different players will develop, will show you different uses for that. So this is a basic action of Dara Dara.
Beautiful.
That type of action.
Now that middle finger, how is that being used then? Is it just as you need an additional sort of
Yeah,
pulling
not to
stroke?
give away too many secrets,
Sure.
because Guruji would be mad. But so many different ways, right? Well, here's one example, right? Historically, so the first artist to really take this instrument and make it be accepted as a classical instrument
Mm,
that you can play rags and in the big recitals was the guy Pandit Brij Bhushan Kabra.
okay.
And he developed these techniques, as you may be aware of. We have Jor, we have Jala, we also have the Jor Jala,
Hmm.
right? Which is after Jor is a Jala, but it's a special type, and it
Yeah.
leads with the Chikari instead of our typical Jala da chick 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 da chick
Hmm.
chick chick. It's chick da da da, right? And so on
Yeah.
guitar, a lot of people, I mean, we had to, not me, I wasn't born yet, but they had to figure out, okay, all of these classical techniques that are done, that are a part of the canon of what's expected for sitar and sarod. How do we reproduce and do the same thing on the guitar to
Yeah.
show everyone that yes, it's a full instrument, we can do everything?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the Georgiala is one that Brij Bhushan Kabra developed that uses the middle finger. So
Got it.
very powerful technique, and I mean, very cool. Especially, I mean, as a Western musician, you can. You start to think about chords and
Yeah.
things like that as soon as you get that. So that's one way that the middle finger is used. Vishwa Mohan Bhatt, he uses these two as Dara
Gotcha.
and
Oh, it
thumb.
really as da and as ra.
Yeah, Da and Ra.
Oh, interesting.
And the thumb is kind of more like the middle finger. The way that we use it is it's
Hmm.
mainly an enhancement for the technique or just on the Chikari.
Wow.
And
Okay.
that allows him, I mean, one characteristic of his style, right, is that he'll pluck one note very forcefully
Hmm.
and then take like 28 notes after that, just like mind blowing
Yeah.
level of connection. And so he can um, get a lot of clarity with this technique. This.
Interesting. Yeah. When you were showing that Georgiala sort of roll, let's say, I'm
Hmm.
going to put it in banjo terms.
Yeah.
It's it looked to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, and if we don't want to go too into the weeds, that's fine too. But as if you were going thumb first middle or thumb middle first. I couldn't tell the order.
Yep.
And that sort of pattern is very similar to banjo.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
wild.
So
I wonder, maybe someone with some banjo chops would have an easier time.
it's really fascinating.
And I've had the great fortune and also misfortune of practicing a lot with
Mhm.
all these different styles of bowl before
Sure.
I've settled on my current one. Is that um, my my Guruji, my current teacher, Pandit Alok Lahiri, his student Tanmoy Mandal, who was a fantastic Indian slide guitarist, basically showed me
Hmm.
and convinced me that his technique was the best, and I totally agree with that. But in the time, I practiced in every possible way.
Of course,
I
yeah.
started leading with the thumb as da
Oh,
because I
okay.
was a guitarist and I wasn't
Yeah.
gonna I couldn't listen really to anybody to tell me that this was wrong because I
Yeah.
already knew better. Right? I
Yes.
play guitar since I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to tell me that this is stronger than that.
Yes. And
I've been,
by your own admission, you said you're very stubborn at times.
yeah, oh, I'm extremely stubborn. And you basically, if you tell me something, I'll do the opposite until I
Yeah,
convince myself.
I love it.
It's a character flaw, maybe.
If someone wanted to learn Indian slide guitar, obviously you teach Indian slide guitar, I correct?
I do. Yeah, I even
How-
teach online since after this pandemic mess.
Yeah.
I'm getting pretty good at it too.
Now, what's the, because obviously like your, slide guitar, you said custom built, custom order. There's no, they don't carry Indian slide guitars in Guitar Center. So if
No,
someone even wants to learn this instrument, how do they even start?
it's actually not that hard to get started with Indian slide guitars. That
Mhm.
yeah, understand that this instrument is yeah custom built. It's affordable
Yeah.
by our Western standards, but it's a chunk of money, and so you really want to be sure that you're gonna play it and
Yeah.
invest in everything. But any guitar, any of these ones on your back wall there, you can buy something on the web or from your local guitar store. Actually,
Hmm.
local guitar stores almost always have these in stock. For $8 is this nut extender
Yeah.
or a nut riser,
Yeah.
and it is essentially a
It just goes over the caps on the nut of the guitar,
yeah, exactly, and
raises up
it's
your strings.
metal, raises
Yeah.
up the strings, and I even created a
Right. Goes over
guide.
it would
Yep,
go over this part
that's
and
exactly it. You know
lift all your
what?
strings up.
Let me show you something.
Yeah.
This is a $30 Chinese acoustic guitar
Love it.
that I bought as a 15-year-old because I liked the color.
All right.
And also because the body of it really always had a good sound.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll just say that this guitar was never playable at any point in its life. The neck, there's no fretboard, it's just a painting,
Yeah.
But what I did is I got this nut riser.
Yep.
So there it is.
Yep.
I
Perfect.
put it on and I changed the string configuration a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
So, yeah. So tremendous sound from
Yeah.
what was
And you just restrung it essentially.
everyone said it was a $30 waste of time. Yeah, and if folks, I created a guide about a couple ways that you can string this,
Oh, okay.
but the essential, and so people can go to joelveena.com and write to me and or sign up on my email list and I'll
Yeah.
send it out. But the basic concept is anybody can do this. The basic concept is that you are shifting the strings
Mm-hmm.
one over. So the high E is no longer used, and your B string is going to become the string in this first position
Got it.
because it's a little stiffer.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got G, D, and A below that. I'm using 3 strings here.
Sure.
Then I stuck 2 like 9s or 10s, something super light.
Yeah.
I stuck those where the 5th and 6th string would be,
Got it.
tuned into saw and paw.
That's great.
You got the exact same thing, and this is great because if you want to learn, you don't have to spend a bunch of money, and then all of the same technique still
Yeah.
applies.
So that's your sort of beginner entry way to start taking lessons.
Yeah, that's what's good. At least for people here in India, it's not a big deal to buy an acoustic guitar that has a raised nut.
Sure.
they call it a Hawaiian guitar.
Sure.
Most music you can just walk in and buy
Yeah, yeah.
that instrument. Um, it's not common here for whatever reason,
Yeah,
but
I find that, like, at least on the East Coast, it's very hard to find resonators or square neck guitars unless you're
uh,
shopping online, from, whoever's going to sell it. But yeah, I don't know if maybe more Nashville-oriented music stores have more,
I bet
bluegrass sort of folk instruments like that, perhaps. But
I
yeah,
bet that would be the case.
like even in New York City, like it's rare for music stores to have resonator guitars. I started seeing Gretsch makes a couple that are only like a couple $100.
Okay.
Well, by a couple hundred, like in that $500 to $700 range. Yeah, it's sort of hard, I think, to find lap style guitars.
Yeah, that's
So,
strange. Any of those would be an excellent choice too. One of
sure.
those Gretsch steel bodies. One student is learning from me on a dobro
Yeah.
with the steel resonator, and
Hmm.
that sounds really good. I really like what's happening
Yeah.
with it. Is that the instruments also have their own kind of
Character
sound,
and resonance. Yeah.
just like why we want to have so many guitars, right? That's a
Yeah.
thing with guitarists. It's like we want to have so many
Yeah.
guitars,
Yeah.
and they do all sound different, and sometimes like the dobro, I'm the students learning Bim Palasi
Oh,
on
okay.
the dobro, and it sounds so hearty and
Hmm.
strong. I really like the way that
Yeah.
Bim Palasi sounds on the dobro. I love the way it sounds on my
Of
slide
course.
guitar, but it has all this like shimmery
Yeah.
type of stuff, and a lot of the pulling and the pathos of the rug has to come from my hand movement.
Yeah. So let's talk about, because when watching you play the sort of cheap Chinese $30 guitar,
Yeah.
one thing that's really clear is
Mm.
that part of the reason it sounds so good is because obviously you've done a lot of practicing, and
Yes.
this hand that's doing the slide work,
Yes.
it knows where to go to get those notes in tune and to do your little tiny flourishes and little things to sort of the level of control you have. But let's talk about that slide. It's sort of something I've never seen before. It's very, like, almost like looks like a metal pencil or something.
Yeah. These it's made of steel, or at least
Hmm.
I think it is.
Yeah.
It's about 6 inches long. I hold it like a pencil,
Interesting. Okay.
and
Yeah.
it's not typical. This is something I picked up from my first teacher,
Mm.
Dr. Ranjan, and he played with longer bars.
Mm.
And there were I started using this, I think, after I'd been playing about 8 or 9 years already.
Mm.
And what I started to notice was that what I played on before was this very short bar. This is very typical
Yeah. Like almost like a.
that you'll find a Hawaiian type of bar. You can hold it like this,
Yeah.
or I would also hold it like this in the
Hmm.
same way. Is that the what we call the gumuk, the rapid movements from
Yeah.
note to note, die, I, is extremely difficult with a tiny slide. Is your hand is getting in the way of it,
Mm.
and then you're also trying to look
Yeah.
because we don't have frets,
Yeah.
and so we're relying primarily on our ears. But especially when you're learning, you're trying to look at the fret marking
Yeah. The
there. And so
lines. Yeah.
with the larger bar, one of the things that I really like about it is that you can spread your hand.
Mm.
And so I've got the fingers sitting on one spot, and I'm able to slide back and forth, kind of
Oh.
like this lobster type motion, and
Yeah.
my fingers stop it,
Yeah. And do you
allowing for
find
more
that
accuracy.
in general, are you sort of, well, I guess it would be this hand. Are you sort of then sort of muting the strings behind the slide as well to sort of
Yes, that
control
is
sort of like other sneaky frequencies from getting out and stuff. Yeah.
That's a key part of the style is
Yeah.
that there's always this middle finger dragging on the string
Got
behind
it.
it.
You've been playing this instrument for how long? I'm guessing something like I've sort of been checking your backstory. Sort of, is it 15 years, 20 years? How long have you been playing?
It's getting around there. I started in 2007.
Okay.
So I think in July, that's like 14 years if we're in
All right. Wow.
2021
Okay. And
now.
and um, I consider you like very much like someone who can definitively speak about this instrument because
Oh,
when when I found your YouTube channel, beyond just like hearing you play, which I thought you played very beautifully and wonderfully, um, there's like a concert you're at where there's like 20,000 people or something, and
yes,
you're talking like doing an intro with a mic, and you're speaking, I think, in Hindi for quite a while, and I
that's
was
right.
like, okay, that's a whole nother level. Not just like someone who's found an instrument and has taught themselves at home how to play a few sort of Indian riffs. And you've really jumped way into this and sort of dedicated a lot of time in your life to this. So how did that happen?
Excellent question. So I ask myself that sometimes, It starts even before 2007 was I was enrolled as a undergraduate student at the University of California in Santa Cruz.
Okay.
And my freshman year, I was not particularly interested in academic things. And in signing up for classes, I was looking for easy classes.
Okay.
And there was a lecture, and UC Santa Cruz is a huge school for those who don't know. We had these very typical to have lectures with 100, 200, 300 people in them.
Okay.
These
Sure. Like
massive
big lecture
halls.
halls. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, huge lecture halls. So there was one of these are the type of classes that you take if you don't want to do a lot of work because nobody notices that you're coming in or out.
Yeah.
And I was interested in music. I'm a musician from when I was a child, so I was looking at music lectures because I thought that would be like the easiest possible thing I could do. And
Sure.
there was one called The History of North Indian Music,
Okay.
which was a 120 seat uh, music, like general elective
Wow.
type of class. And so I took that. It was pretty easy, but it was easy because I became really fascinated by the subject matter. In particular, the professor, this guy Dard Newman,
Okay.
who is actually the son of Professor Daniel Newman, who is a renowned musicologist in
Okay.
Hindustani music. I came to find out after, but he presented these wonderful lectures, weaving together incredible tales of musicians going against all adversity to practice for, six, you've heard these stories,
Sure.
six,
Yeah.
8, 10 hours,
Yes.
tying their hair to the ceiling
Yeah.
fan so that if they fell asleep, they would
Yeah.
have their head. I think your teacher has probably told you all these
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah. If you've studied an Indian instrument, if this is you have to hear all these
You
stories.
have to
Yes.
hear these stories, and also the legends of the all-night concerts, of
Yes.
the supernatural happenings,
Of course.
and also the music itself. Is that it was the class was like at 9 a.m. on a Monday, I want to say, and so you're
Yeah.
coming in this very soggy, sleepy state as
Yeah. Sure.
a freshman college student. But we would come in, and then he would play these recordings of, you know, Ustad Ali Akbar Khan, Pandit Ravi Shankar,
Yeah.
incredible recordings, and the sound just, um, yeah, soaked.
Yeah.
When
You
you
get hooked.
said, yeah, I was immersed in it, and we would listen in our dorm room. We would put on these iconic recordings, Ali Akbar Khan Saab and Pandit Ravi Shankar, that duet album from 1972. We put
Sure.
that on in our dorm room, I have no idea what was happening. I couldn't even tell the difference from one instrument to the other. And,
Yeah.
we'd be sitting around the dorm room being, oh man, this is so cool. This is so trippy. And, um,
But it hits you, and it's something. There's a spark there. Yeah.
it does,
Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of people have a similar experience, I find, is that the first time that you encounter this music, it's baffling, but there is something that kind of resonates, actually. I was about to say hook, but I think that resonates is more the
Mm.
appropriate word, is that there's something inside of
Yeah. Yeah.
us that is activated upon hearing this music for the first time. From there, I had a wonderful opportunity to take a workshop with Ustad Ashish Khan, who is the elder son of Ali Akbar Khan Sahab.
Oh wow.
And that was at UC Santa Cruz itself. And I just had actually this Gibson Songbird hanging up there, and I would take that to the class and try to play
Yeah.
the stuff, and that was very interesting. I was really impressed by
Hmm.
the maestro. He was really a sweet person, very helpful to me. And then that encouraged me to sign up for a study abroad trip my junior year to study for 6 months in India.
Wow.
And I was not a music major at that time. I was studying literature
Okay.
because I loved music so much that I couldn't imagine anyone telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And and it was also both my parents are musicians,
Okay.
and also my stepfather is a musician, and my siblings are musically talented. I grew up in a very musical atmosphere, and so the idea of me studying music at a university, everyone was kind of like, why would you do that? So instead, I was learning the highly employable field of world comparative literature. Um, I'm being facetious there a little bit. But it did get me on that study abroad trip to study Hindi literature in
Wow.
translation at the University of Delhi. And we went to Mussoorie. From Delhi, we went to a place called Mussoorie, which is in the Himalayan foothills.
Hmm.
It's known as a hill station. And we studied at the Landor Language School. And while we were up there studying, the roads and the streets in Mussoorie are extremely steep.
Hmm.
Because everywhere you're going is like this or like this,
Yeah.
and there's really no flat parts. And so in this little town, you would walk past these shops, and you're walking up the hill, and you could kind of see in their windows sideways. And so
Yeah.
as you're walking up, the window's getting lower and lower down to your feet. And there was a CD shop, and I saw in the window a CD of this man seated cross-legged with very interesting looking guitar in his lap.
Mm.
And it was a very low res photo. And so the guitar is a blur, but you
Yeah.
can tell from the blur that this thing has way too many strings.
And something's going on. Something's going on
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
he's
Yeah.
also holding it in his lap in a
Yeah.
very uncharacteristic way. So I went in there and I bought that CD. It was a CD by Pandit Vishwa Mohan Bhatt called
Hmm.
Classics for Pleasure, and has Rag Kirvani, Gayoti, and Desh on it.
Oh wow. Okay. I love Dash.
And yeah, it was just incredible recording. I brought it back to our hostel
Uh-huh.
and put it on my Sony Discman.
Uh-huh.
And I listened to that CD like the whole night. I didn't
Yeah.
sleep. It was a that idea of resonating again,
Hmm.
maybe
Hmm.
resonation.
Hmm.
It was epiphany is a little bit
Yeah.
cliche, but it was like a switch clicked for me,
And
and I. Hmm.
yeah, I was gonna say, so like, because I've had those experiences, and for me, it was like, well, I need to know more. Like, what is this? I need to know more about this. So, I mean, my assumption is that from there, it was like you went on this mini quest to figure out what this is, right? Is that?
You're exactly right, and I love the idea of a quest too. I'm
Yeah.
studying world literature, so I'm reading about heroes' journeys.
Hmm.
I'm reading mythology from all over the world, and I also took this class my freshman year, which detailed, the experience of someone like Alauddin Khan Sab, Ali Akbar
Yeah.
Khan's father. His story is that he traveled as a very young man all over India on his own, basically
Yeah.
as a mendicant, searching for his guru and like begging outside of people's houses, please teach me. And so I
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
this idea in my head is like, okay, I have to find a teacher.
Yeah. And you gotta go.
That's
You gotta
why,
go beg at their feet.
right, and I have to go
Yes.
questing for
Yes.
that. And yeah, and so once we were back in Delhi, that's exactly what I set out to do.
So you're on your quest. You got to find your guru.
Hmm.
Who did you find?
This is a nice story. So back in Delhi, my friend Sonia was interested in learning tabla,
Oh,
and
okay.
so we kind of set out together in the morning of, I think it was July, late morning. We
Uh-huh.
start walking around Delhi
Yeah.
campus, and
A nice, cool, refreshing day, I
it
imagine.
was one of the hottest days I have ever experienced. As we're walking around the campus, we're asking people, where is the music faculty?
Mm.
As that's my logical idea, right?
Yeah.
Go to the music department and they'll help you find the teacher.
Yeah, they have to. It's right. That's
That's their
required.
job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, there is a board at the University of Delhi, this digital board that says the temperature and the air quality.
Hmm.
And we were walking back and forth underneath this thing. Nobody knows where anything is at these giant institutions. It's the same in America too.
Yeah, of
If you're
course.
in the astrophysics department, you have no idea where the English department is.
Correct.
The English department doesn't know where the music faculty
Yeah.
is. It's 108 degrees
Wow.
and 95% humidity. We finally find the music faculty. It takes 3 or 4 hours of
Wow.
like walking around this really, really bizarre how long it took. So we find it, and I walk in like victoriously because this is the end.
Yeah.
And I talk to the woman at the desk, and I say, I'm here. I want to learn Mohan Veena. I want to learn Indian slide guitar. And she's like, no, we teach sitar, sarod, tabla,
Yeah.
vocal. And that was it. That was the end. And
Yeah.
I was just super dejected, and there was no offering of help at all. And as I'm turning away from the desk, I'm looking this way. There's a hallway,
Hmm.
and comes striding down this hallway is this man with wild hair wearing a kurta, white kurta. And he said, I am Pandit Subhash Nirwan, great tabla player of Delhi. I will help you.
Really?
And I say, oh, okay. And we're learning Hindi. So I say
Yeah.
to him, I say, shabash. Shabash means good job, right?
All
So I
right.
say, okay, shabash, And he says, oh, shabash is what you say to a child. To me, you say, kya baat hai.
I love this story.
It's life changing, man.
Yeah.
Pandit Subhash Nirwan, uh, the late Pandit Subhash Nirwan, he sadly passed away since then.
Mm.
One of the greatest tabla players of our time. And a really sweet person. He took me to his home in, I want to say Lakshmi Nagar. We went to his home, and immediately he got out the tabla and gave me an acoustic guitar. And there's a video
Really?
on YouTube. You can see me as a emaciated 19 or 20-year-old
Wow.
jamming with Pandit Subhash Nirwan
Oh,
I'm
wow.
sitting in a plastic chair and I'm doing some, A chord, jammy jam stuff, and he's just demonstrating the finest
Oh, wow. I have to look this up.
Delicarana.
I'm gonna
You
have to
you
watch this for sure.
you gotta see it. You'll
Yeah.
get a kick out of it. Um, and Pandit Subhash Dewan has sons, and his son Suraj Nirwan, who is my dear friend and my same age, he was practicing with a Mohan Veena player by
Really?
the name of Dr. Ranjan Kumar, and he, via the father, introduced me to Dr. Ranjan,
Wow.
and
And that then you had your first lesson at some
then
point
I
there.
had
Yeah.
then I got to learn from Dr. Ranjan, and I learned from Dr. Ranjan for about 10 years.
Wow.
After that, I would come. Um, I mean, a lot of stories in there in between here, but just to set it up is the after my 6 months there finished is that I started coming back every year
Oh, wow.
to
And
continue my
how long would you
study.
stay for just to,
In the beginning, as you know, it's not cheap to get over
yeah.
there. I would stay for about a month,
Wow.
and as time has gone by, I've been able to increase that amount of time as my life is kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
more and more about playing the music. And
Wow.
so, well, this past year, because of 2020, I was in
Sure.
India for almost the whole year. I was there January through August or
Oh,
something.
wow. So you were there for a long time.
I was there for a long time
Wow.
doing
Yeah.
nothing, but it's a,
Um, wow. This is really incredible. So to just jump back, when you went and you were like, I want to learn Indian slide guitar, and she's like, no, we don't teach that,
yeah.
Was there a part of you that was like, all right, maybe I'll learn sitar, or maybe I'll learn, you know,
I am a
something
really
else, Sarod or something?
stubborn person.
Hmm.
And once I have an idea in my head, I can be a little inflexible about it.
Okay,
So
so you
I
were,
was pretty fixated on it. Uh, that whole exchange, though, it
mhm.
all happened so fast. Emotionally, it was, elation. I found the place.
Yeah.
And then she says no. And, like, def- the deepest defeat. Because also we're drenched in sweat too.
Oh
It's
yeah,
108 degrees,
yeah, you spent
90%
what,
humidity. We're
4 or 5 hours?
yeah, we haven't eaten lunch or anything like that. And so, yeah, elation, dejection, and defeat, and then this mystifying experience where this guru type character appears out of nowhere and then like
Yeah,
whisks us away.
cloud of white smoke.
Yeah, almost literally like that. I
Yeah,
mean, it was a very cinematic
yeah,
moment.
and life changing, life changing.
Life changing,
If he had not been
definitely.
walking down that hallway at that time and had probably not overheard your conversation, then
Who
everything after
knows where
that,
I've
your
been?
whole life after that is
My,
different, Joel.
that's exactly right.
Yeah,
My wife says that that whole, it took us 4 to 5 hours to find the
yeah,
music faculty. She said that was all about timing.
yeah,
Because if we had found it right away, maybe he wouldn't have been there
yeah. It's
at
really
that time.
incredible.
So I try to remind myself that about that too when you're like really suffering, trying to accomplish something and you're like
Yeah.
putting a lot of effort into it and it's not working.
Hmm.
I try to remind myself that there might be a larger reason why that's not working. Like
Yeah.
your hero of the day might be waiting for his
Yeah.
entrance.
I'm gonna tell a sort of a related anecdote to that.
Please.
Um, Many years ago, I was studying some Chinese martial arts, and it was the school didn't do belts. It wasn't like a ranked thing. It was pretty old school,
Mm.
and I remember talking to my sifu at the time and saying like, like, am I doing okay? Like, where am I in this? I'd only been there probably about a year, maybe at that point.
Okay.
And it was sort of one of those rare moments where he was sort of training with me, and we were sort of exchanging energy, whatever you want to say, right?
Wow.
And his response was, "You are where you are." And I was like,
Wow.
"Okay, I guess I'll just go." It took me like a moment to sort of almost like understand that, but as I've sort of gotten older and wiser, like that's very true. And I've had some conversations, or many conversations, with my sitar guru, Ustad Iqlaq Hussein. And when we've talked about like just life, he always gives me very similar advice to say, um, just go with the flow, right? Like, just, it's not worth fighting it, almost like just go with it and improvise, and it'll all come out, it'll all work
I
its way through.
know. And how do you have that faith? That's the
Yeah.
thing. How that's for me is the
Yeah.
always the struggle is that intellectually I know
Yeah.
that that is correct because I've had the same experience of
Hmm.
you of these very wise and accomplished people telling me that, but like
Yeah.
when you're in it,
No,
you're
it's
just
different when you're in
you're
it.
just trying to yeah, you're just trying to
Yeah,
figure and to get out and try to remind yourself that you're this is happening for a purpose or that
totally.
we just
Yeah.
have to go through it. You know,
So,
that's like practicing our instrument.
yes. Now, do you still play guitar, like standard Western guitar?
I do. I'm not
Um,
that great at it.
okay. I was gonna say, like,
I
what type of
I do
stuff do
it
you
for
play?
fun. Well, that's funny, right? I love reggae music. My father is a reggae musician and
Okay.
played with musicians from Jamaica, and I got to travel and perform in Jamaica and when I
Wow.
was 18, a little bit on guitar with some of these guys who are like family.
Yeah.
And I still play bass actually in this band called NL Dennis and the Thunderballs, which is my
Okay.
dad and his long-term friend Mr. NL Dennis, who's a wonderful singer from Jamaica who he sang with Toots and the Maytals
Oh,
and
wow.
Desmond Decker and those guys.
So I love this. I love that you Indian slide guitar, but still playing a little bass on the side.
Yeah, I still and you know my bass chops are all Indian slide guitar chops.
Oh, interesting. Do you finger
This
style on the bass?
two finger style
Yeah.
is just incredible. I can do my bowl patterns,
Mm-hmm.
dara da dara da dara. I can do on the
Yeah.
bass. I can all kinds of interesting
Well, see,
things.
I like that. These are little tidbits that, like, because I was going through your channel on YouTube, and well, links to your channel, I'll make sure that's included in below. So if you want to learn, go to Joel's page, of course. But there was a Indian slide guitar cover of Bob Marley's Redemption Song,
That's right.
and now I know why.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm a big Bob Marley fan.
No.
It's probably the first music I ever heard. Or the first memory of music I have was
Really?
listening to
Okay.
Bob Marley.
All right. So I'm trying to think what to ask you next. I'm going to veer off course a little bit, and I'm going to
Okay.
say, beyond Indian slide guitar
Mhm.
and bass and reggae music, what other hobbies or things do you do? What else is sort of like passions in life?
That's a good question, man. The Indian slide guitar really consumes a lot of my life. I'm really passionate about recording
Okay.
also, actually, and sound. I know this is still a music hobby. It's
It's
basically
okay.
all music.
That's fine.
That's basically all I do.
I'll allow that. That's
Yeah,
allowed. That's
that's allowed
allowed.
on your show, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. That's kind of a passion of mine. I
Okay.
like microphones and
Yeah.
preamps and talking about them and
I love microphones.
oh man,
Microphones are great.
microphones are really great.
Um,
Yeah. Oh, and
now,
vinyl records.
oh, vinyl records. Okay. Okay. Well, Joel, I feel like we've touched on a lot of topics.
We have.
I think this has been a really great introduction for people that want to learn about you and learn about Indian slide guitar.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
you mentioned your website before, but can you just sort of repeat that for everyone just so they can get it?
Sure. Yeah, joelveena.com. JoelVeena.com.
And your last name is actually what is it?
Eisenkramer.
Eisenkramer. Joel
Eisenkramer.
Eisenkramer.
That's right.
Yes.
And so my stage name is Joel Veena,
Yes.
and that's because of it's hard to pronounce Eisenkramer, and we've been facing that for generations, I'm sure.
Yes.
And
I mean, I couldn't
though,
get it. I couldn't get it.
yeah, though funnily, now I live part of the year in India and I perform in India where they have no issue pronouncing Eisenkramer.
That's
Nobody has any
amazing.
issue, so
So there you go.
it was not necessary, but
And obviously, people should check out your YouTube channel. You've been doing live streams, it looks like pretty much every Sunday for like
that's
months
right.
now.
Yeah, I've been at it. I've been at it kind of off and on since like March of last year, since this
Wow.
whole mess started. And I started a program Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as I'm playing Rogs for Peace and Happiness. And the idea is that I'm playing music to kind of reinvigorate, renew, recharge you.
Yeah.
Not so much like I'm giving a concert, everybody now hear my songs and I'm live and stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of people. We have a range of people, but you put it on, and I'm trying to play in such a way that for the week to come, you've got like a little extra focus,
Yeah.
clarity, calm, peace.
Well, they've been great. I've been watching them the last few weeks since I
Oh, thank you,
discovered you,
man.
and even today I was watching some of the past ones just because I wanted to sort of just listen to you play, and you play great, and it's really beautiful, and
Thank you, man.
so and thank you obviously for doing this conversation. It's one of the positives for me coming out of sort of this whole COVID thing is that I thought, well, I'm going to try to interview people that are around the world because we're on Zoom calls already. So
That's right.
I really appreciate you participating in this, and I would say to anyone who wants to learn more about Indian slide guitar or take lessons, you should certainly contact Joel. And
Please do. Thanks so much for having me, Jeff. I think you're
yeah,
doing wonderful work with your channel, and
well,
I love your videos. I
I'm
also
trying. I'm trying.
watched a bunch of. We're all trying,
Yeah.
that's the thing is it's a work in progress, and
I have one last question for you.
please,
This is a fun one. What is your favorite vegetable?
my favorite vegetable. I really like spinach.
Spinach. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I like spinach.
Well, thank you again, everyone, for watching. And please make sure to subscribe to Joel's channel. Subscribe to mine if you haven't done that already. And give everyone a like. And do you have a Patreon, Joel?
Not yet.
Okay.
I do have a Bandcamp subscriber thing.
Okay.
So if you head to Joel Veena on Bandcamp, you can get all the music I've created, plus all this. I have all these concert recordings
Oh, great.
unreleased, like bootleg type of stuff, and it's really fun. So if you're really interested in this stuff, that would be a great way to connect with me. Is
Well,
head over to Bandcamp.
that's where I'm off to next then.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. And wave and bye.